Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. I'm in the studio this afternoon with the man, the myth, the legend, Cody, a.k.a. the Professor. We got all things NFL today, not college football, so if you're here for college football, don't leave. Still going to have a good time, still going to have a good conversation, but happy to have you all here. Happy Sunday. Codes, how you feeling, big guy?
Feeling great, man. Definitely a lot better than last week when I was sick as a dog. Still made it here, though. You know how it is.
That's true. You had the pussyitis. I almost forgot, but you're feeling good. You're back in it today. Dialed in.
Yeah.
We're humping and moving. Show's been doing well on Sunday, so we're happy to be here. Cody said, we're going to be in a weird stage for like the next 3 weeks. It was like 3 weeks ago because of the lack of NFL information. It's not like college football, man. Like, this is what makes college football great is even though we haven't had any football for about a month or so now, practice or anything, there's still a lot of drama, right? Whether it's recruiting, whether it's kids, getting in trouble outside of school, whether it's just stirring up what could be, because the college football is just constantly changing, that there's just constantly news going on. NFL seems to be more relaxed when it comes to that. But all in all, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely has its ebb and flows. This is probably the worst period of NFL football, kind of the dead period. But boy, we're like 50 days away or something.
Yeah, we're
like
close.
that.
We're itching, so we got to stay in the rhythm. We got to stay fresh. We got to keep our legs warm for when the coach gives us the call. You know what I mean? Todd Freeman celebrates 6 months of membership. Yo, fam, 6 months. That's awesome, brother. Appreciate you, man, for being an OG, man, passing 6 months. And yes, Wyatt Langford to the Rangers, 4th overall. Incredible. Good for him. About a $7 million paycheck coming to that man. So that's awesome. Good to hear. But, boys, we got a lot to go over. Godspeed, my boy. What's up, baby? How you doing, man? We're going to talk about possible playoff teams that haven't been to the playoffs in a while. Cody got his list out. I love it. We're going to talk about the Jags Hunt video that just dropped because that's literally all we have to talk about for the Jags. Cornerbacks. We talked about running backs kind of being in a weird, jobless position. Cornerbacks seem to be in that same boat, so we're going to get into that. Packers hating Rodgers. It's always fun to talk about, obviously, with him being a cancer or is it the media. It's been a conversation that we talked on the show with Steve before, so it'll be fun to kind of continue with this conversation. And then Bill Belichick. Is his time done in New England? It's talking season. I know this is going to stir so many people's feathers, but we start to look at it. It's like, look, it's time. This cat's getting old, bro. You know what I mean? Like things might be running its course. So a lot to go over. I'm excited to talk about it. But first order of business is who will break the slump. We've got the Jets, the Lions, the Broncos, and the Panthers. So those are a couple of other teams, but these are the four that you decided to go with that haven't seen the playoffs in a while. And I think, look, these are good teams because I think all four of them have, the Panthers being the least of the four, in my opinion, have a real possibility of finding the playoffs this year. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start with we're going to go one by one and kind of give your 2 cents on it. Let's start with the New York Jets. The first time or the last time that they were at the playoffs, Obama was in his first term, 2010.
Wow. That's
2010.
That is a long time.
That's a while. Now, here's the thing. The Jets are I put them first because they are my number one pick to break the playoff slump here. They got Rodgers. If he stays healthy at the helm, I think it's going to be okay. The defense is fantastic. They rank 4th overall in defense and 4th overall in scoring defense. Now, the scoring defense changes year to year. It's just like a defense that gets a bunch of INTs. Those are kind of gifts. So, but the 4th overall defense, I do see that kind of replicable. And boy, I tell you, I think the Jets are probably out of this bunch the closest to breaking that slump. What do you think?
So I like where your head's at. They're not my number one pick. I'm not going to tell you my pick yet. The reason being is it's the division they're in. Their division is an absolute gauntlet. I feel like I've been using that word a lot lately. But the Bills don't seem to be going anywhere. I don't expect them to fall anywhere. The Dolphins seem to be making an extra stride. Both those teams made the playoffs last year. New England, which we're going to get into a little bit later on. Look, it's still New England. Even though I'm counting Bill out a little bit here, it's like the Nick Saban of NFL. They're still going to be a threat. And a threat they were. They finished above the Jets last year. Jets finished 7-10. A lot of that had to do with quarterback play for the Jets. They fixed that problem with Aaron Rodgers. I still don't think that Aaron is at the end of his slump here, honestly. and we're going to get into him a little bit later and just kind of the cancer that he brings to the locker room. Do we feel he's going to be able to set the Jets' offense on fire enough? Look, I think they could get onto a good roll. I just think, again, that division is so tough. That's why they're not my first pick and my favorite out of these 4 teams. I like where your head's at. I do think they're going to be a threat. I would like to see them in the playoffs. It would be fun to see them. I'd rather see them than New England or Buffalo at this point. I think Josh has ran his course. He's ran out of time. Dolphins and Jets would be cool. Would be fun to watch. Don't want to see them win. Would be fun to watch, though.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think the coach was Rex Ryan.
For the Jets?
Was their coach?
Oh, back in probably. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, dude, that's crazy to think about, man, how long that's been.
Sure.
Wow. All right, Lions.
Yeah, okay. Secondly, we have the Lions, and here's the deal about the Lions, man. They're kind of a hot team right now. Obviously, the Bears are in dire distress. They're rebuilding. We know nothing about Love and company at the Packers. I do think the Lions possibly can sneak in. They're my second favorite on this bunch. They can definitely get a wild card spot, but all roads for the NFC North run through Minnesota, and I just think they're not going to win the conference. You can giggle all you want.
All right. So this is my team. This is my team this year to go. I felt like they started to click and find the rhythm last year. They finished in second. I don't think the Vikings are going to be as good as they were last year, being 13-4. Green Bay, there's a huge question mark there. Chicago, they'll be better than 3-14. But Detroit was kind of like the Gamecocks in college football, that comparison, where it was just a few kind of, mishap losses, go the other direction. They're in it. They're right in it. And that's kind of what it felt like for the Lions. And I think Dan Campbell and company knows that. Didn't they? And they just denied the Hard Knocks going back to Detroit. I think it shows like, hey, we're locked in. We're focused. We're ready to get things done. People aren't bought into Jared Goff. I don't think Jared Goff's our Lord and Savior. I don't think he's going to take him to a Super Bowl by any stretch. Although Jared did take the Rams to Super Bowl, so maybe he could. Look, I think that he's got his guy. He believes what they've got going on there, and I think they built around that draft. And everybody that was there last year, they had a young team last year, is a little more experienced this year. So they're my number 1 team out of these 4 to get it done.
Gotcha. And next up, we obviously have the Dirty Birds, Atlanta. The last time that they made the playoffs, Ryan was the quarterback, and Julio was catching the passes as they were slinging it around the turf over there in Atlanta.
Good times.
Here's the thing, though. The team's not that great. I mean, they got Pitts, they got Bijan, they got London, they got an old Cordell Patterson, but their quarterback room just doesn't impress me with Ritter and Heineke. I don't see it. The last time that they made the playoffs, it was 2017. I don't think that they are going to make it in 2024.
So here's the crazy thing. Obviously, the Bucs made it going 8-9. Carolina, New Orleans, and Atlanta all won 7 games. So everybody was within 1 game last year. I don't see any of those 4 teams getting any better. So weirdly, right, with the addition of Bijan, with another year of Desmond Ritter, with another year of Kyle Pitts, they out of the teams they look the most established. In a weird way, they do. You got a quarterback situation going down there in Tampa. Carolina is obviously a complete reset of a team. I don't think they're going to be nearly as good. Probably 2 easy wins for Atlanta. New Orleans, they've got Derek Carr now,
Question.
so they're going to be honestly more of a threat. I think it's easier for them to get to there. I feel like typical Atlanta, they'll find a way to shoot themselves in the foot and they won't make it.
Yeah, for sure. Next up on the card, we got the Broncos. And I don't care that they have the mighty Sean Payton as head coach and OC. And I just don't see it. Russell Wilson's old. He went like 4 games without throwing a touchdown pass last year. They're not a playoff caliber team. I'm sorry, Denver fans. If you want to go watch somebody to make the playoffs, it's going to have to be the Avs or the Nuggets. 2015 was their last playoff appearance.
Which those teams did pretty well when they made the playoff run. They did their job. So yeah, Broncos are low on my list too. Again, that division's unreal. Kansas City's not going anywhere. The Chargers are going to get better. It's not even worth my breath of how far off the Broncos are. You're right. Sean Payton's not going to make a difference. That's all I got.
Next up, we got the Panthers. They saw a glimpse of the playoffs in 2017 when Cam Newton had that all-world year and was run around the field like a chicken with his head cut off. But you know what? They hired Frank Reich, and Frank Reich got fired mid-season because he was such a terrible coach for the Colts. And they lost their star running back, Christian McCaffrey. I don't see it. I think this is the Colts 2.0. I think it's Bryce Young is small. They don't have a great offensive line, and they really don't have too many weapons. This is going to be the worst team in the South.
In the NFL, you think? I think they could be the worst team in the NFL. I think they honestly will be the worst team in the NFL. I don't think they're even close to sniffing what a playoff even looks like. They're farther, unless they get some draft picks. Next year's draft's pretty loaded. I know the way their draft stacked up with some trades they made, and they can make some more trades. They could find themselves having a few top draft picks, I think, or it was Houston. I think it's Houston has top draft picks next year, so disregard that. They gave the whole farm away for this first round draft pick this year. I mean, they gave Chicago everything. I think they're going to be the new Browns of the NFL. That's my prediction with the Carolina Panthers. Real quick though, we got a super chat from Dom. Appreciate you, Dom. Says Houston will make the playoffs before the Jags. Dom, you can suck it, and I hope you get hit by a car on the way to work tomorrow. Yes, Animal, this is live. And Gage says your thoughts on the Falcons. Well, we gave him our thoughts, so glad we were able to answer that question.
Not good. Not good. The Falcons are just a team that just doesn't have all the pieces yet.
You guys are arguing about Fletcher going to Clemson. Is that what you guys are thinking? Is this a live podcast? Yes. This is live, guys. All right, moving on. Anything else, or is that the last team?
Nope, that's it.
All right, fantastic. Next we have the Jags, the hunt, the news. Obviously not too much is going on with the Jags, but they have their weekly, or I know it's like a monthly, maybe every so often they have a show kind of drops that is just following them along. Little series that they do. It's like their own Hard Knocks in a way. It's their version of Hard Knocks. Is more of a personalized version of it. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of every team kind of has this. The Vikings have the Voyage. It's the same thing with the NFL or the Florida Gators with their little segment.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah,
I absolutely love
them. They're super fun. So something I picked up from the Hunt series was the D-line coach, former NFL D-lineman himself, Brinston Buckner, said, I'm always challenging these guys. I'm putting them in situations that they don't like to be in and they're not comfortable in. I feel like that's how you get better. I show them tape when I used to do it wrong, and the next week I figured it out and did it right, and it really, really makes them say, wow, he's been through it, he's done it, and when you listen to him, that you're going to get the results of what you're looking for. And the Jags, Mike P even said, I didn't realize how many former players that Dougie P said, I didn't realize how many former players I actually hired, and it's working for us.
The Lions did that as well too. If you go look, well, obviously you learn a lot from Hard Knocks, where a lot of their coaches are former players, and that's starting to become a trend. And I think, again, even with Coach Prime in Colorado, that's something that he kind of spoke to. Of a past player has a lot of experience. Look, I think a good mixture is healthy. Obviously, with the job that I am, I'm a sales manager. I haven't actually necessarily done the job. There's pros and cons to that. The pro is I come in from a fresh mindset, right? I don't have the wear and tear of doing the job day in and day out that could cause a negative thought process on it. But I still have to use people who have done the job to help sometimes translate things a little bit better. So I think obviously that's huge to have that. And it's funny to hear Dougie say he wasn't looking to do that. So that tells me that during the interviews, it was more of like, hey, I feel these guys are going to be able to, transcribe what I'm trying to say. Austin Armstrong's a great example of that. Obviously, being as young as he is, probably didn't have much time playing the position or playing the game as some of these other coaches probably are, just because of how young he is. But sometimes, again, that's okay too, because of how they study the game. They study it in a completely different manner. But techniques and just shortcuts while you're on the field, that's where coaching, playing the game is a huge advantage. Watching the defensive lineman coach talk during that interview, I was trying to pinpoint who he is. I love watching certain coaches and certain people and relaying them or comparing them to people in life or just in other situations. And he's like one of those guys that he probably would annoy the shit out of you. Like you would hate him as a coach or as a teacher. He's like the PE teacher that just always he just says the right things just to just irk you. You're like, shut the hell. And he's the fat guy sitting in the corner just running his effing mouth. And the relationship after like a year or two, you finally like clicks for you. You finally learn to respect it. Now that's my personality, right? So that's how I would respond to it. Obviously, some people, click to that person really well, but that's the kind of the vibe that he gave me. He's like that old PE coach that just sits there and he says shit, and you're like, it hurts because he's right, but you're like, who the F are you, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah, so I kind of compare it to, I was reversed. So my last job, I was a shop foreman. So I essentially ran the shop, and I was turning wrenches before that, and then I was so good at the sales part, they added me a position to shop foreman. So, when mechanics would come up and complain and say, hey, this sucks or that sucks, I'm like, yeah, I know, it's your job. You gotta get through it. Like, they're like, well, what do you know? And I'm like, oh, I've only been turning wrenches for 10 years. So it's kind of, I see where he sees it from a different point of view, and I like that. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I think, again, doing the job allows for you to get away with saying certain things that someone like me who doesn't do the job, you have to be a little more political in the way that you go about it. So that's it on that.
Absolutely. All right, next up.
Yeah, real quick. Gage is riding with the Cardinals and Falcons this year. Cardinals, I don't know, man. I'm not sold on Kyler Murray. We'll see. Muddy says, I think the Jags offense is going to be so good that our offensive coordinator will get a head coaching job. He's also the brother of the Bengals head coach. Look, Muddy's usually not far off on things, boys. Usually not far off.
Yeah, Q Lee says Vikings aren't going anywhere with Kirk Cousins. Boy, I gotta agree. I think he's kind of a birth to the playoffs, one and done type deal, but he's still gonna win the North. The North is so bad this year that I still think he'll win the North.
Cole Prescott. This is a fun one here. He says, what if former USC coach Pete Carroll trades something big to get Caleb Williams as the first quarterback taken? Imagine seeing him with Lockett, Metcalf, and Smith, Jackson Smith, with Kenneth Walker roaring the rock or toting the rock. Look, remember the NFL draft? We thought Will Levis or Anthony was going to end up in Seattle, and they went quarterback. Yeah. Did they never took a quarterback? Did they? Maybe later on.
No, they didn't take a quarterback, I don't think.
Not at all, right?
No, who did they take? No, they did. They did take one guy to sit behind Geno, I think, late.
Oh, they took Hendon Hooker, I think.
Hooker.
Is that how they took?
I think so, yeah.
No, they didn't take quarterback. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, they took Devin Witherspoon, quarterback, wide receiver, outside linebacker, running back from UCLA, guard, DT, DN, center, safety, running back. They didn't take a quarterback. And when they skipped on Will Levis in the first round, I go, Pete Carroll realizes that the quarterbacks next year, the slew of them is a lot better. And it clicked. And look, that's a good point with what Cole's saying is that, look, if you look at that class, it's much better. And it's like, let's go get what we need now, which the cornerback class this year was very healthy. Very healthy. I think we talked about that as well, too. Is there's a lot of good options that you could choose from. And I think that was what Pete Carroll did. And I think Pete Carroll was a phenomenal head coach. And so that's interesting. That's a good point, Cole. I think he would have to do a lot to go get Caleb. And I don't think it's going to be a lot to give up, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
I think Pete really likes Geno, too, as long as he can stay healthy. I mean,
Hooker went to Detroit. Wow, huge.
Yeah, I think that they like Geno and they're okay with Geno, and as long as he stays healthy, they're fine with it.
I think they like Geno. They don't love Geno. Geno's not the answer.
No, they're not.
I think Geno's. No. I think he's doing a good job. I think that was a smart move how they got rid of Russell and they're like, look, Geno can come in and do a good enough job. We're in a transitional period, and I think. Look, I don't think Cole's not far off in his thought process there. I think a quarterback is going to go to the Seattle Seahawks next year, and I could see them making some moves to make sure they're in the right position to do that.
Absolutely. And you got to remember that Seattle has always been built on defense, right? Like when they were great,
yeah,
they had the Legion of the Boom, and they had
Russell Wilson too.
on a cheap contract.
Yeah, it's not like they had like a Brock Purdy or anything, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Like they kind of took a guy and they built Russell Wilson up. I don't think Geno's that guy though. think he's a little past that
No,
stage?
he's kind of a would you call it like Mertz? He's kind of just that in between quarterback to
Sure.
to get you to the guy.
Sure.
So I think
Okay. Yeah. The
the
transition quarterback.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback class is going to be very good this year. You draft the guy that you really like. You do all your research, and you with Geno, he's signed to a multiple year deal. And again, what we say is you don't have to necessarily start him right away. And Dom, I'm drinking Busch Light, not Bud Light, and
Yeah.
I smoke cigars. I don't smoke cigarettes. So
I love it.
take your spit jug and take it somewhere else.
Fun fact from Cody says Pete Carroll was the Patriots coach right before Belichick. He was also the head coach of the Jets after Belichick left New York. And Pete Carroll's been around. Bridge quarterback. There you go. Cole Prescott dialed in here. This Cole guy. I love this guy. I like this Cole guy. Guys fired up.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Quarterbacks, big name quarterbacks, still jobless. First round draft pick. So this kind of stems from our running back conversation we had a few weeks ago, where the shelf life of these guys seems to be shrinking a little bit. And to the question that you kind of brought up, which I think we're going to get a little bit further into, but the thought process was like, is a first round draft pick, worth it anymore? And look, running backs outside of like your typical like Bijan Robinson, one of those guys that come in and kind of make a stand right away. There are a dime a dozen. You can go get a guy like a Tanks Bigsby in the 5th round and still have a very solid running back. Our cornerbacks turning into that. That was kind of your preference. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer used to say it. I can find a slot corner anywhere at the anytime at the 7-Eleven down the road. So I don't know, man. It's pretty wild. Cornerbacks have become a severe premium in the league, and this just shows you with some of these names, like, should you be spending a first rounder on them? Like, did the Steelers do it right in getting Joey Porter Jr. at the top of the 2nd round instead of spending a first round pick on him? Is that the right move? Because we're going to list off a couple names: Byron Jones, Marcus.
Think about Seattle. They took Devin Witherspoon, 5th pick overall. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
And the Jets used a first round pick last year with
Sauce
Gardner. So it's tough, man, because not all these guys are going to work out. But let's just say some names right here that still are jobless that were first round picks. Byron Jones, Marcus Peterson, Kyle Fuller, and Eli Apple. And they're all within their prime. They're all under 32 years old.
Eli Apple's 27. Again, it's one of those bust situations. I think Sauce Gardner is a generational talent. 100% worth the first round draft pick, like a Bijan Robinson, right? You typically don't see running backs go that early, but when you got a guy like that, they kind of just you see them, right? They pass the eye test up and down. But there's a couple of, I think 2 or 3 that went first round this year in the cornerback position. And look, it's one of those positions, we were talking about it before the show, the longevity, like back in the day, you had your Darrelle Revis was a big one, right? Revis Island was huge. Patrick Surtain, Charles Woodson was another one. Champ Bailey. These guys, you felt like they just were around forever. And I don't know if the wide receivers are just getting better, but these guys seem to be getting burned now. And I don't know if they can keep up or whatever. I don't know how those other guys did it. Richard Sherman's another one. Josh Norman. I feel like they lasted a little bit longer, right? And it doesn't seem to be going that way anymore. There's still a few that are lasting, that are doing a good job. But yeah, it's like the running back position. They're losing their legs. They're losing life at the 29, 30-year-old age. And who just signed with Baltimore in his 12th year?
Patrick Peterson.
Patrick Peterson in his 12th year, still running strong. So look,
but young.
But yeah, he's only 32.
Young for 12. Yeah,
32.
He's 32.
He's 32, and he just signed his 12th year contract. And you got somebody like Eli Apple and these other guys that are in their 6th, 7th year and struggling to find a job. So look, I think it's just, I don't know. It's interesting to see because, again, we're seeing it happen with the running backs as well.
There was a cornerback for the Cowboys. He played for the Vikings for 1 year. I can't remember his name, but he ended up being a coach mid-season because he lost his legs. But he was like 39.
Still playing?
He was still playing, yeah. And then they transitioned him to a coach because he lost his legs mid-season.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously wide receivers are just getting more freakish. Maybe that's
scorching
yeah,
fast.
maybe that's where it looked like the likes like a Kadarius Toney type, right? A Tyreek Hill. Back in the day, your best wide receivers, the big names were Calvin Johnson, Des Bryant, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, right? Outside guys, just north and south, like not necessarily agility guys, right? Just big, tall guys go up there and get that. So maybe that was why those cornerbacks had more of a longevity because, look, so you didn't need speed. It was just, it's honestly that plays to older guys because you know how to play those guys. You've been playing them for so long. It doesn't, like, they're not going to beat you with speed because those wide receivers are just big by nature, right? Kind of like a D-Hop or a Metcalf. Those are just big dudes. But now everyone's going towards, it's like small ball and baseball. That's kind of how I think about it is everything's in between the lines. Tom Brady really expanded that with Edelman and Welker and all that. And I think those type of wide receivers have started to grow in the league, which is why the lifeline of cornerbacks is starting to shrink because of that.
Yeah, for sure. You got guys like Justin Jefferson that just and Tony and a bunch of other guys that can just Jamar that can just weave and bob in between the lines, and the routes they're
athletic
so
freaks. They're not necessarily just big guys. Metcalf's a freak too, but yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we just figured it out. Maybe it's just the evolution of the game is evolving, right? And which is causing these positions. And look, the running back one doesn't make sense to me though. Why the running backs are starting to run out of gas? I mean, I felt like we've gotten away from a running back league. And I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe you guys could figure it out. I don't have the answer on that one yet.
Well, with the cornerback thing, real fast too, you do have to understand that a lot of NFL players, like I was watching Bussin' with the Boys, they said cornerback. They have a linebacker on there. I forgot his name, but he's one of the hosts on there. He said cornerback is the hardest essentially position to play.
Well, yeah, you don't have like an assign. You have. I mean, you're either man to man or you're zone, right? And you're just reacting to everything. So it's, and again, you get kind of got there in solo land. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I could see that. Yeah, it's linebacker. Obviously, you're kind of reacting, but you're not necessarily assigned to somebody particularly every single time. When you're a cornerback, if you make one wrong step, the whole thing can explode. You break down the whole one side of the field. You really don't have somebody to back you up when you're out there alone on the corners.
Plus, the corners are starting to have to cover guys like Kelsey and
Cup and Pitts,
Pitts, big tight ends that are towering over you.
Yeah,
and
they're not like the Megatrons because they're just they're fast and just dorky and clunky. It doesn't pair out well for those guys. But yeah, look, it's interesting to see. I mean, especially during this offseason. It's been a quiet offseason. Outside of the Rodgers saga, it's been very quiet. But we'll see. You guys are arguing about Trey Lance here. Let's kind of get into that because I like the argument about Trey Lance. I'm not sold on Trey Lance. I've never been a big fan of him. I don't. Again, coming out of South Dakota, little surprising there. Look, I'm a big Jimmy G guy though. I love Jimmy G, and I think that system in San Francisco, you can plug Cody and I in, and it probably would do pretty successful. But we'll see how he does though. I'm interested to see how he can bounce back. I think a lot of people were excited to see what he was able to do, and obviously never really got a chance to get it going. So it's hard to sit here and knock somebody who never really got a chance to play. But I wasn't sold on him coming out the draft.
You know, it's tough with Trey Lance too because why would they put him on the trade block like they did if they weren't happy with him?
Who?
I know he went to that Trey Lance.
He's on the trade block.
San Francisco is trying to peddle him for draft picks, for sure.
Really?
They're taking calls. Yeah, they took calls from the Packers and a couple other organizations for Trey Lance. I just don't think that they're sold on him.
Oh, yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah. I'm on it. What do you expect?
San Francisco 49ers may be forced to move on from quarterback after training camp. What? Wow, they have Sam Darnold.
Yeah. They got Sam Darnold and
who's competing?
Biotic Purdy.
Yeah, but Purdy's still coming off an injury, which he's not going to be. Interesting.
Yeah, I think the I find Lance and Love kind of in the same.
Apparently, he's having a hard time winning the second job. So maybe I was pretty spot on. with
kind of the second. You know what I mean? I think they took him, and I think that both Green Bay and San Francisco are kind of like trying to push it under the rug and get what they can get for him. You know, Green Bay was talking about trading off Love too, also after Rodgers, because they're not sold on him either.
Yeah, but Love didn't have the same amount of hype as Trey Lance did, in my opinion. So like that, I wouldn't be as shocked.
Absolutely did. They traded up to go get him to burn Rodgers.
I don't think he's the same level of hype. Could be.
No, he's not the same level, but
the
in
hype
Packer
is there,
Nation,
but not Trey Lance level.
But you got to understand, Packer Nation, they did the same thing they did to Favre with Rodgers, and they did it to Rodgers with Love. And if he's not the guy, then I'm sorry, the GM's got to go. You traded up to go get him.
Sure.
When you needed wide receivers,
and now traded Rodgers away.
Yeah, and that wide receiver class that Love came out of was a world beater of a wide receiver class. I think that was a Justin Jefferson wide receiver class that had all them studs. Jamar Chase, all of them.
Cole Sasson, can you give me a list you think will for sure draft before Seattle and likely picks a QB? Can you rephrase that, Cole? I don't think I'm understanding that. Love that Jimmy jawline. Hell yeah, Adrian. I get behind that. Ty Dyson, what's up, Sean? What's up, man? How are you, Bubba? Good to see you.
Dom has a stupid super chat.
That clear Kool-Aid is poisonous. What's up, Q-Lee? How you doing, big guy? You wearing your Gator scarf today, Bubba? We got 44 people in here, almost 50 people in here, and 17 likes. Show some love, guys, and drop a like. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It means a lot. Glad that we're talking, NFL stuff too. We're having a good time doing it. This is great. Yeah. I had something I was going to say, but I forgot. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Packers. So Packers take a shot at Rodgers. I mean, there's just no surprise here. This has been drama for a while now. And I did say hi, Tyler. Go ahead. Talk about it.
So essentially an NFL insider, Albert Breer, actually a real insider, unlike the Twitter insiders. The Pack, he was talking to the Packers, and Rodgers was the last season that he played with Green Bay, he was disengaged. He was not there for the off-season training, and they felt like essentially that he was a different player, like he just didn't want to be there, and he could really care less for the team. And so you wonder, with the Jets, is it going to kind of be the same old deal, or is he going to be the glue that holds them together? Now, we have seen this before in wide receivers also. Stephon Diggs, he kind of did the same thing with Minnesota, and a premier player, and just started to turn to a cancer. And look, there's the same bullshit coming out with him and in the Bills. It's kind of head scratching. Now, I understand why Green Bay took the shot at him, because they essentially said that he threw games, is what they're getting at. Which, if you watch that season, it kind of looks like it.
Last year?
Yeah.
So here's my thing. We talked about it before with Aaron Rodgers, and he does give you the vibe of like a dickhead. But speaking to the Stephon Diggs thing, Josh Allen was on Bustin' with the Boys this past week. And they asked him about that. Yep. You saw it. And he goes, yeah, it's just drama. It's just people talking. And he said it so naturally. Could he be lying? This is what we do, though. This is what the media does, stir shit up. And I feel like that's all this is, because when Rodgers goes on Pat McAfee, you got to think about what the thought process there. Rodgers goes on Pat. He's one of those guys. He's a ride or die, keeps his circle very tight, doesn't talk to anybody, but will go on the Pat McAfee show that he knows is going to get millions of views to talk whatever and say whatever, because he loves, obviously, A.J. Hawk and respects Pat McAfee, or loves Pat McAfee, to be able to have conversations. I don't believe that somebody would be a cancer that functions in that way. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers could be a standoffish and be considered a dickhead because he's not like lovey-dovey? Sure. Absolutely, because he's not giving in to the crowd. He told Adam Scheffler to lose his number when all the drama of where he was going down. Like, he just doesn't care for the bullshit, and he doesn't play the political game. So when you have somebody like that in a world that people like to control and, be a part of the narrative and have inside information, and Rodgers just sitting there with just double birds the entire time, people hate that. So how do they feel? They feel the only way I can get back to that kind of person is just stir stuff up. I feel like this is this. I wanted to believe that he was a cancer, but I've watched him too many times on Pat McAfee to believe that, because that's raw, in my opinion. Now he's an ESPN, who knows what we'll get now, but when he was on the show, you just see Aaron Rodgers, like, he's not having to second guess what he's saying. He's just saying how he feels, which rubs people the wrong way, but I like that. I respect that. Do I think me and Rodgers would ever be friends and hang out? No, he probably wouldn't like me either. But I have the same issue with some people. They don't want to hang out with me. It's like, yeah, I don't have time to beat around the bush or explain it to you because you're a fucking idiot. So that's just, he doesn't have time to waste his time with dumb people. So I respect Rod. I don't think he's the issue. I think there's a bigger issue with just, I think Green Bay was trying to control, manipulate the situation. I think there's a lot of guys in that, in Green Bay, just like any organization that want to run shit. I think the same thing happened with Tom and Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick in New England. Tom had more respect for those guys and vice versa, to where it wasn't an ugly breakup. So they went their separate ways more respectively. But the same thing happened where it was like, I'm tired of like this political bullshit. I'm Tom F. and Brady. I've done a lot for you guys, and you're still trying to treat me like I'm bullshit. Nah, I'm out this B. Again, they just handle it a bit differently.
Yeah, for sure. And if the Packers are going to be the most kind of not organized franchise, you can see that because they don't have an owner to step in and say, shut the hell up. That's our starting quarterback. They run on a board. So it's an odd deal. It's a small town. I know a lot of people love Rodgers. I think it's a Packer taking a shot. I think it's a Packers taking a shot because they're not happy with Love, truthfully. Do I think he's a cancer? Yeah, he can be a dick, but I don't know of a total cancer. They're saying that he threw games. I don't know. I think it's the Packers just being sad that their hot girlfriend is gone, and now they have second Sally there in Love, and they're not happy with them, truthfully. And real fast, I saw Animal. He asked if Trask is going to overtake Mayfield. I think it depends on the preseason. I think we're really going to see a heavy dose of both of them, and I think it depends on how Trask plays.
I don't think he does
for the preseason. I don't see it though either, Shelton. But go ahead on the Green Bay stuff.
Hot take here from Q Lee. This is going to get clipped. This is great. Aaron Rodgers is an overhyped quarterback. He's the James Harden of the NFL, a choker. Now, I love this. I think this is phenomenal because I hate James Harden. I think James Harden is extremely overrated. I don't think he's great at all. I think he's all about him. I think he's extremely selfish. You can take his MVP and shove it. The one thing that Rodgers has is a championship that James does not. But this isn't a horrible comparison. It's the same type of personality, somebody who is all about themselves. And look, even though I think Rodgers is great, I do think he's all about himself and just kind of focuses on himself. Same situation. Guy's got a couple MVPs, right? Always does really well. But in the big game, can't seem to get it done. Anytime it's time for James to make the last shot, James Harden, or to do things spectacular in the playoffs, just goes back to being mediocre. That's a hell of a comparison, Q. I love it.
And Q, you say that Greg Jennings been exposed to Rodgers. Yeah, but that's the only guy I've ever heard of to expose Rodgers. Listen, I have family that's very close to Brett Favre, and I have a very good friend that's very close to Brett Favre. And even when that relationship was kind of sour of him and Brett never came out and said anything bad about Rodgers. He just said it's not my job to train him. But he never said anything bad, nor does Bakhtiari, nor does anybody else. It's just Greg Jennings, which has a job on, I don't know, Fox or ESPN or whatever. And he's really not relevant. I'm sorry, Q Lee. That's the only guy I've ever heard to take a shot at Rodgers because they didn't get along.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, those are kind of dime a dozen. It's like the Pippen and Jordan thing. There's somebody always going to have an issue with it. There's not one person you can't sit there and run with it. I agree. But look, I like the comparison though. It's again, he has a ring, but it was fun. I enjoy it. All right, our last topic here. Look, it's been fun. You guys have been great. Appreciate the comment section. You guys have been more alert than usual, so this is great. Again, not being football season, this is fun. I've had an absolute blast tonight. Bill Belichick in the hot seat. It's a question mark. It's not a statement here. Again, this is going to stir a lot of people up, but you got to start kind of asking yourself: Is old Billy B? Is his time? coming to an end sooner rather than later. I'm gonna let you go because I have a whole rant here, and I don't want to take away from your thunder, so I'll let you go, and then I'm gonna pop off here.
Yeah, for sure. So Robert Kraft comes out and tells the media, "I'm looking for a 7th Super Bowl win," and told Bill Belichick that that's the standard here. And essentially, if you can't get that done, then you're on the hot seat, and he's not going to take another disappointing year. I think that Bill Belichick in the NFL, I think Bill Belichick's a great guy. I think he's a Hall of Fame coach. I think that the league is starting to pass him by. And I feel the same way about Saban at Alabama. I feel like the league is starting to pass him by. He's not going to take another 4th finish in the division. It's just not going to happen.
That's spot on. I think, look, this isn't a knock. I think Bill's great, and I think you hit it on the nail on the head where the league is starting to pass him by. And look, Robert Kraft, he's not getting any younger either, and he's like, we got to make some moves, and I think the Belichick way is just, it's outdated anymore. It's not going to continue to keep up. And I was trying to think before we hopped into the show, it was a shower thought. I was in the showers actually thinking about, in my lifetime, what big coach has stepped away? The only ones that I can remember are Dungy for the Colts, and then Bill Cowherd from Pittsburgh. Those were the two for me that when they walked away, it was kind of like an iconic coach leaving. The rest of them they've kind of fizzled out or got fired or what have you. Like Andy Reid still balling, Pete Carroll still balling, Bill Belichick. There's probably guys that I'm not remembering. Rex Ryan, again, was he great? No, but that was a big head coach, but kind of just like disappeared, just kind of fizzled out, right? I don't think Bill wants to fizzle out. That was the other thing too. It's like, look, like this is the guy's getting old. He reminds me of Greg Popovich too. Greg Popovich has the number 1 draft pick with Victor Wemby right now. And I was talking about my buddy yesterday. I go, look, Victor Wemby has some struggles. I don't think Popovich is the answer. I think a lot of people think that he is, but I think Popovich is past his time too. We could be wrong. Coaches last a lot longer than players do. But look, we saw an entire generation of quarterbacks just basically close out with Tom Brady retiring, right? The Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, all those guys. Big Ben, Peyton, right? That kind of chapter closed. Coaches' chapters last a lot longer, but this kind of got me thinking. I was like, well, this could be the start of that chapter. And the guy's been a coach at the Patriots for since 2000. 23 years were going on. And sometimes it's the best way for relationships to move on and still be healthy is to move on. And I think Brady kind of made that clear when he moved on. I think Bill's time is close. And again, yes, he's done a lot for you, but you can't sit. This is a business. This isn't like a hedge fund where you ride this guy to the end and you kind of tuck him to the back and just pay him his salary and make sure he gets his 401k at the end. Like, it doesn't work like that. So they're not going to give him a couple of nods because of all the good things that he's done for New England. It's what have you done for me lately? And he hasn't done anything lately. So
yeah, I feel like Bruce Arians is another one that kind of rode out on the sunset also.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, Bruce Arians is another good one. I forget. But again, the way coaches, they have a weird way of leaving. He kind of was just like, yeah, I'm going to go to the front office. He hasn't really left yet. And he kind of pulled the.
Do you see that with Bill?
No,
with
no
Belichick,
way.
Do you see that, or he has to be the guy?
Yeah, the ego's too big. Like he did the move, like the corporate move of like, hey, let me just go put you into this corner and you kind of just ride out for the next 5 years. Help us when you need it. We'll make sure we take care of you. But yeah, I don't see Bill doing that. Pete Carroll's another one. I mean, I'm not excited to see him go, but look, coaches obviously their shelf life's a lot more. I don't think Bill's done. I think Bill might just need new change of scenery, to be honest with you. I think if I'm like in Arizona or if I'm like who's a team that could really use some help right now, that would
I think that he is probably they're gonna say, Robert Kraft is gonna say,
Cleveland?
What, Bill, I think it's time to hang it up. He's already been at Cleveland though, and it was a dumpster fire.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I know Dallas wouldn't be crazy.
I just think he rides out on the sunset with the Patriots. I think that they may get a offensive coordinator or some type of guy that Bill likes, and he can kind of groom up, and then I think that Bill just retires and be kind of a forced retirement, right? Kind of Robert saying, listen, we don't want to make this nasty. We also don't want you to go anywhere else. Let's go ahead and hang up the whistle.
And Muddy says, look, the great thing about Andy Reid, he's been a head coach for 25 years now, but he's always a step ahead with adapting and changing. And that's something that Andy has always shown is like he's not afraid to try something new and go after a new approach. Bill had an opportunity after Brady to show some signs of like, okay, let's run a new system here. It didn't even just put old Mac back there and try to run the same thing.
Well, and he brought back the same coaches too, and that's his downfall. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things. I don't see it. And I feel like Saban's going down the same way for college football. I think that it's going to be the same thing. I don't think Saban coaches anywhere else. I think that he retires from Alabama. And,
I think Saban could go to the NFL and have some success. I think what's passing Saban is the NIL and just the landscape of recruiting is moving too fast. I don't think coaching, I don't think that's beating him. I think just he's losing control of what he's control. And you're right. That's probably why he won't go to the NFL is he's losing control of something he's had control over for so long. His hand's out of the cookie jar. He's not managing the puppets anymore. So, absolutely. Another question is when Mike Tomlin will leave Pittsburgh. That's another big one, right? I mean, I don't think he does. I think he rides it out. But he's young, Never. Dude. I mean, he's got a long line ahead of him too. I think I could see him leaving. Pittsburgh just doesn't do that. They ride with their coaches. Look how long they had every coach prior. That's the thing with Pittsburgh, why it's such a great job is because they keep their coaches. Tomlin they had for like 10, 15 years. They don't go through coaches like that. They just don't. And if he's had a winning season for I feel like forever. I don't think they missed a beat on having winning seasons either. So, but all right, boys. Well, I think you change the whole culture too that Pittsburgh has if you lose Tomlin. I think there's a specific coach built for Pittsburgh. Agreed. And I don't know who would take that spot at this point in time. But look, great show, guys. Appreciate you guys hopping in here, hanging out with us. The comments are great. You guys were fired up. I loved it. Again, we'll be live Wednesday. Yeah. We'll be live Wednesday with Princely, I believe is who we got lined up from the Florida Gators. So he'll be on the show Wednesday. If anything changes, obviously, we'll let you guys know. But make sure you guys turn the bell on. Hopefully we should have some news. Obviously, some commits happening throughout the week. Tomorrow, offensive tackle, Fletcher, Westfall, I think Clemson, Florida, and a few others are in it right now. So it's going to be one to watch, 11:45 a.m. We'll be ready to rock and roll if anything happens. So keep the bells turned on for tomorrow in case we suit up, boys and girls. But other than that, have a great rest of your Sunday. Be good. Be safe. God bless. Until next time, my name's Shelton. This is Cody the Professor. Boogity, boys. You have a good one. See you next Sunday. Like and subscribe, baby. Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been